Hi guys, and welcome back to the next video in the series. So this is the third video now I've done for kind of off-season tips for getting the best out of your triathlon season. And this week we're going to focus specifically on the swim. Okay, so the swim's quite an important element of the triathlon itself. For those of us who haven't been previously competitive swimmers, it's sometimes difficult to grasp the importance of the swim because it's so technical. There's so many different parts of the swim stroke which are important. So I'm going to give you 3 of my sort of top tips for getting the most out of your swim in the off season and also in the season itself. And these are going to be things that you can work on in the pool yourself without having too many tools or toys or instruction. So it's pretty straightforward. The swim itself, it's really important that you get a good body position with your swim. You need to cut through that water efficiently and with causing the minimum amount of drag. That's really important, you actually emerging from the water as quickly as possible. So there are my three kind of key points for developing your swim stroke during your swim training are as follows. So the first one that we're going to focus on is the kick. Triathletes are notorious for ignoring the kick. You'll hear triathletes saying things like, oh, I'm not going to bother using my legs because I'm going to save the legs for the bike and the run. I'm going to swim with a pull buoy in today because I'm saving my legs for my bike session tomorrow, my run session after lunchtime or whatever. Things like that. You can't ignore your kick. Your kick's so important. Whenever you think about your body and the body that you use to cut through the water, you've got these 2 massive limbs which are really strong, really powerful, a lot of muscle in there. They can help you generate momentum and propulsion through the water. So if you ignore those and just let your legs drag along behind you, you're really missing a trick. Okay, so the kick is vitally important. Ultimately, if you're ignoring your kick, you're not swimming like a swimmer. And swimmers swim like they do for a reason, because that's been proven to be the best way of getting yourself through the water, of working your way through the water, getting to the other side of the pool, ultimately getting out of the pool in as quick a time as possible. So it's a vital component of your swim stroke. Okay, not only that, but if you have a better kick, you have a better body position. If you have a better kick, you cut through the water more quickly. If you have a better kick, you generate more momentum, and so on and so on. So it has a real knock-on effect to your overall swim, which is ignored from time to time. So, first tip, kick from the hip. Don't kick from the knee. Okay, so you've got this big limb which is called a leg, a lot of muscle in there. If you only kick from the knee down, you're only using half of your leg. You're only generating half of the propulsion you can from that limb. So use it all. Okay, so kick with your leg almost straight and kick from the hip. That's the first tip. The second tip is the feet position. Okay, so your toes should be pointed towards the back wall, not pointing down towards the bottom of the pool. And that's vitally important for a couple of reasons. You need the top of your foot to just break the surface of the water, and that's the part of the kick which is going to generate the most propulsion for you. If you're pointing your toes down towards the bottom of the pool, basically you're not using your foot in its full capacity and you're not generating the maximum amount of propulsion you can from using your feet in that manner. When you're kicking and using your foot, if you point your toes to the back wall, you need to keep your ankle flexed a little bit, so you need to leave a wee bit of flexibility in your ankle. Okay, if you continually sort of kick with your feet pointed rigidly towards the back wall, when you combine that with kicking explosively off the wall, you'll cramp up. Okay, so keeping that wee bit of ankle flexion will stop you from cramping. You'll know you're doing it right because you'll feel the burn in and around your shin. If you're pointing your toes properly, you should feel the burn roughly in and around your shin bone rather than on your calf. Okay, so that's another good pointer for knowing that you're pointing your toes and doing it correctly. So that's kick, really important. With a little bit of work, you can really get a lot of benefit from your kick, but you need to be doing proper kick sets. Okay, so I mean, triathletes, sometimes you hear them talking about going to do a kick set and it might be 300 or 400 meters. Competitive swimmers will do kick sets of 3,000 and 4,000 yards at a time. So a 300, 400 meter kick set is not a kick set, it's a warm-up basically. It's part of your warm-up. Okay, so a bit of work on the kick, you'll really start to reap the benefits of it. Tip number 2, pull buoy. Okay, so the triathlete's best friend, the pull buoy. I'm going to stick my pull buoy in today because it'll replicate my wetsuit. It'll help me lift my hips up. It'll help me cut through the water quickly. I'm going to stick my pull buoy in today because I've got a run session after tea tonight. So I want to keep my legs fresh for that. I'm going to stick my pull buoy in today because I'm going out on the bike tomorrow. I'm going to ride hard, so I want to save my legs for that. Nonsense. Stop doing it. Okay, it's the lazy way out. Don't do it. So basically, when people stick the pull buoy between their thighs, they ignore the core. Okay, so they stop contracting their core and they stop using their core to help them rotate and stretch. And that's why you get no benefit whatsoever from your pull buoy. Okay, so what you want to do if you must use your pull buoy, if you've actually done a hard set and your legs are sore, is put your pull buoy between your calf muscles. That'll force you to engage your core, and it'll force you to use your core to propel yourself through the water. The pull buoy is great every now and again, but ultimately by using the pull buoy we just become lazy. Okay, so if you want to really challenge that core and start using it to generate your momentum, then leave the pull buoy to the side. Try doing your drills without a pull buoy and you'll soon feel the difference. If you stick a pull buoy in and go and do like a doggy paddle drill for 25 meters and then come back and take the pull buoy out and do the doggy paddle drill without the pull buoy, you'll notice the difference immediately because it forces you to engage the core, it forces you to use those muscles to propel yourself through the water, and you'll notice the benefit of it in the long run if you stop using the pull buoy. So knock the pull buoy in the head, no good for you. No good can come from using the pull buoy. Sparingly. You can use it sparingly if you want to give your legs a wee bit of rest if you've really pushed it. So here's the thing, I mean, swimming is not an impact sport, okay? So it's really easy to recover from a tough swim session. You can go and push yourself to the limit in the pool for an hour, get out of the pool, go get showered, get changed. As long as you hydrate properly and eat properly, there's nothing to stop you from going again and doing a run or bike session 2 hours later. You'll recover from swimming that quickly. There's no impact on the body. All you're doing is moving through the water. So the only impact that you're experiencing when you're swimming is that part where you're kicking off the wall. That's it. It's not hard to recover from a tough swim set. Certainly if your next session isn't until the next day, there's no need to be using the pull buoy. You can easily recover in time to go and push it again on the bike, especially if it's a bike session, because again there's little impact to the body. You can push it again the following day without having too much recovery. Third tip, and that is the hand position. Okay, so some people really struggle. When we're talking about swimming, we talk about the center line, so the line that runs straight down through your body, and we don't want our hand position to cross that center line. That's the sort of goal that we're all looking for, is to make sure that those hands don't cross the center line. So when I'm going to take a stroke, I don't want to be entering the water up here. I want to be entering the water somewhere at the other side of that line here. Okay. There's a really easy way of kind of gauging where your hand should be entering the water. Whenever I'm talking to people about hand injury, I usually say to them, imagine I was to ask you to do an overhand pull-up, where would your arms naturally sort of go? And if you do that for real now, if I do that now, my arms would sort of go somewhere here. That's a natural position for me to do an overhand pull-up. So that's where your arms want to be entering the water roughly, because that'll give you a straight path in your pull. So you'll be pulling straight back with both hands like that. If you cross the center line, bring your arm over here. What you actually need to do is move out and then move back, and that's a waste of energy. That's energy that we can use somewhere else. So that's why we try and enter the water shoulder width apart roughly, and then pull straight back, and that'll help you propel yourself through the water in the most efficient way possible. So just running through those 3 things again very quickly. The 3 elements that I would sort of recommend you work on with your swim during the season. Number 1, your kick. Don't ignore it. Use it as a weapon, develop it, make sure that it's something that you can use in your race. At the back end of your swim, when you're in a race, you want to be getting your speed, the extra wee bit of speed that you need from your kick. You can easily do that by just increasing the rate. Another small tip that I should really point out with the kick is, when you're kicking, you want to be kicking fast You want to be doing a flutter kick rather than trying to kick really, really deep into the water. How deep should you kick? It's a shallow kick that you're after, which will give you the biggest benefit, not a deep kick. So if you can, the best way to kind of imagine how deep the maximum depth you should be kicking to is to put your hands on your hips, like this. Bring your hands up at the same level, like that, and turn it on its side, like that. And that roughly gives you an idea of the maximum depth that your kick should be whenever you're kicking through the water, okay? So it's not very deep at all. You don't want to be trying to kick to the bottom of the pool. Keep it nice and quick, keep it nice and sharp, keep it nice and shallow, and you'll get the most from it. Kick, number one, really, really important. Don't ignore it, embrace it. It's sore, it's hard, it's a tough thing to work on, but it'll bring you the benefits in the long run. Number two, pull buoy. Triathlete's best friend. Don't do it. Keep it for recovery sessions. Keep it for recovery periods. Recovery periods only. Don't use it as a crutch. Don't use it as the easy way out. Develop your core. Use that again. Number three, hand position. Don't waste energy. Okay? So don't cross that center line. Whenever you try to enter the water at the pull-up position, which we've just sort of talked about, you'll feel like your hands are really, really close together. Stick a couple inches either side and you'll be getting it probably about right. So kick, pull buoy, hand position. If you work in those three things, you'll soon find that your swimming's coming on pretty well. I hope you find that interesting. We'll see you next week for something else.